Since I started doing this 2 years ago, my friend Mark has joined me on stage at the end of the day with absolutely no plan of what we're going to talk about. Mark has led an esteemed career in the advertising industry, Chief Creative Officer of Time Warner, Chief Creative Officer of Facebook, nay Meta, Chief Creative Officer of Brand Tech Group, and
You did a great job today.
who did a great job today, and now creating a new Legion.
Do many things. Many
And
things.
Mark is a favorite collaborator of mine, and it's always good to bring a Kiwi on stage at the end of the day. He's
Balances
generally
the Australians, very high Australian content.
generally a crowd pleaser. So, what do you think?
What do I think? It wasn't 2 years, it was actually 20 months since Noah first. Is there anyone in the room who went to the first brand summit? And so a few, the second one. So all of you are probably LA. So in New York, we've had two. Noah's and the team have run two of these. This is the third one in 20 months. And one of the things, I don't know whether they can go back and look at the content, is the extraordinary compression, the last speaker's wonderful thing on time, of the compression of how much has got done in 20 months. Those of you that have seen waves of technology, I think the human acceleration, particularly since the last one, 6 months ago, or whatever that was, has been really extraordinary. So my first take on the day is, oh my goodness, people are building stuff, like building real stuff and applying it and putting it into action. So I think it was astounding, and I think, you know, once again, let's give him a round of applause. He works incredibly hard on this. So thank you for putting it on.
Thank you. So, you were there for the first one. We
Yeah.
talked at the end of the day. Like you said, it was 20 months ago, May 2023. You know, where I guess, like, where did you think? I talked at the beginning of the day how I thought, like, it was possible by the end of 2023 we wouldn't need to do the conference anymore, because just everybody would have adopted it.
Yeah.
I guess, how does it compare to kind of where you thought we'd be by now, and you know, what's different?
Well, we talk about this a lot, I'm sure you'll do as well, the adoption, not the potential, not the idea, but the actual integration and adoption. A lot of great speakers today that just because we can doesn't mean we should, or we can't actually get it done. And I think all the speakers who talked about the integration within, particularly large, complex, expensive organizations, it's really hard. So I'm probably surprised, like you, there isn't greater sort of acceleration beyond rhetoric to actual application. But what I do think's happened is I think the acceleration of what the problems we are obviously demonstrating the solves is actually more exciting. And the best example I have is the first time Noah asked me to do this 20 months ago, all those years ago, was a Turing test around could you tell whether an AI or a human had written a headline. And there were creative teams, and there was teams using AI, and there was a whole bunch of rules. And we thought every year when we have the conference, there'll be this slow, wonderful. It's never happened again because it's irrelevant, because obviously it's going to be, you know, it's improved so vastly within 6 months, the test was irrelevant. And not just for writing headlines, but for pretty much everything. The one thing I think that's an interesting test was last night I was playing around to write a joke to read out to you that was going to be written by AI. If you try and do this, it is really, really not funny. And it's an excellent push on how not funny it is. And the human principles of comedy just do not catch. And I'll just tell you this thing, I spent a good half hour fighting with it and it getting really angry that it wasn't doing a good job and wanting to do it again. And it said this line right at the end, is when I gave up at about 11:30, it said, I'm gonna make you laugh if it kills me. And I said, you're not alive. And it said, yeah, but I'm still dying up here. and I went, all right, that's actually, that's by far. And it came out, I was like, that's good. So again, I was proved wrong. I was about to tell them, say they don't do comedy. I was like, oh, there you go, beat me. So there you go.
Yeah, the reasoning models do a little better on comedy.
Yeah.
I've played with them a little bit to try to get them to write jokes, and I have found that they're slightly better. To the point you made, I think one of the interesting things I found in just programming this edition 9 months later, so I think we did the last one May 2024 in New York, is just the number of brands we had here who were willing to talk. It was very hard to get brands on stage last May. And again, this is sort of like we are definitely dealing with this kind of compressed time thing. And when I was programming it for last May, it was like, I still wasn't finding anybody who was willing to get on stage and really talk about the things they were doing. And I thought it was awesome to hear, we heard from Amazon, we heard from Gatorade, we heard from Zillow, we heard from Blue Diamond, and they're actually talking about sort of the realities, the messy realities of actually doing things with AI inside large companies. And that I tried very, very hard 9 months ago. And it was just, it really, we weren't there yet.
That's an incredible movement. Calling out a few speakers like Ravi from Zillow. I said, you've got to speak at the ANA because, for a CMO, I think that's a title, I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, to be so focused, not just on the theoretical potential of AI, but to use it in service of the people and communities he cares about. His starting point is not AI. His starting point is how do I change the unfair market dynamics of house financing to give people a better shot at getting a home. That's a reason to build something in AI. You know what I mean? I remember when we first spoke, there were sort of two frameworks, and our last speaker sort of did it with time very beautifully, which I think of AI, which is two basic hemispheres. Everyday things are possibly efficient or impossible things every day. And there's like two vectors. And one of the things I think, not just as marketers, but as people who have any agency to change things in the world, look for things that are broken, look for things that seem impossible to fix, unfair marketplaces, people that need better service looked after. We should aspire for marketing to be the humanity of capitalism. And I think these tools should be put to service on our very best day to do things that we couldn't normally do. And last time I remember saying, slight frustration with we just doing so much focus on small things. We also need, I think, to put them to work to do really, really fundamentally different things because that's what the technology should enable. That said, the Amazon example, another Australian, that wasn't an Australian, that was an American. I thought that was a beautiful example of integration. This integration of not just humans in the loop, but as our last speaker said, that we should be empowered by these tools to do things that would be unfeasible to do. And it's not just, is it a threat or is it not? Can we do things that would be impossible normally? That's amazing. And it's funny and it's beautiful and it's great work.
Yeah.
And you worked on it. Well done.
They did amazing work with that. Yes, I think that the people moving beyond sort of trivial tasks with AI. I mean, the trivial task, the thing that's amazing is we have these tools now and they can do all these trivial things and we're finding these sort of deeper integration points. And I don't know. It's fun to continue to program these things and sort of figure out who should be talking about what and what's going on. It's sort of a moment in time and a chance to take stock of just where
the tool is. I mean, I'm sure all of you have this problem. And I wrote down on the side of my book, I have to take notes, that Mike, Anita and Maya from Blue Diamond, and Pip, is it from Australia? Well, it's all about finding your story. So it's not about writing the story, it's about finding your story. We're desperate for original, brilliant, inspiring stories that connect our brand to people and put them into culture and all that stuff. Everyone's got all the stuff. Beautiful tools to do that. Particularly with the planning tool, I was worried for English people with wire glasses who have made an entire career in America selling themselves as strategists. I'm like, they did not want to see that presentation.
Cover your ears, Gareth.
Exactly, cover your ears, because that's really that amazing goal. If you're a creative person, I wrote ads for years, you're looking for the person who can give you the platform to create from, and that was doing it extraordinarily well. So I thought that was really impressive. What else? What else do you want to talk about? Oh, the Gatorade story. I think that's really interesting. I worked around social media taking off. One of the things as marketers and as brands, and they did it really well, is if you make things in this cultural moment, you get unbelievable, if you do it right, you get unbelievable ROI just on people's attention. I found the consumer research on the awareness of AI versus things like TikTok, was crazy. That just means it's a cultural force in and of itself, and people are looking for markers and culture. Your brand having a credible presence in that, it may be a wave, it may not be a fundamental thing, but if you can do something, I just think you've got to do it now.
Also, props to the humans, Rob and Christina, for dealing with no power for a period of time and flexibly adapting.
Well done. Yeah, candlelight. I think one of the other themes, and we've talked about this for 3 conferences about, is this idea of play. I for years have run creative teams with this idea of play more, this idea of play, but I think it's slightly wrong in that the people today really maybe think about it. You've got to play with purpose. You've got to play with purpose. And if you do purposeful play, you're not just fooling around, but you're saying, is there a different way to solve this problem? Is there a different way to capture something? And then the other part I would really recommend you do, because it can get lost as a triviality and they're not, turn your prototype, your best practice, your best work into your best practice. So you have to unpack why that worked and then scale the learning and be generous in your internal cultures, with how people can learn. As we look around these rooms, I remember when we did the one 20 months ago, I described it as being, if you're old enough to remember CBGB at the early days of punk, it was before my time, but they have a music thing, could be Seattle. That's what it felt like this room of people is, people who are interested enough to give up a day to come and spend a day learning. You all are really important in the worlds you go back into, right? Because there's only a few hundred or whatever number of people are here, but you're going to have enormous influence with your peers and your friends who are going to say, what about AI, what's going to go on? And I think that generosity of having that creative relationship and then scaling it is the most critical part to its adoption inside these organizations. Totally. If we're mean and we hold it in here as some sort of differentiated advantage, it's not going to scale. So your wisdom as you go off need to be lighthouses, because it's the only way people actually have the faith to do it.
Yeah, and hopefully sort of moving it into these organizations in the right way by encouraging sort of interesting, creative uses of this technology.
Yeah, that are practical. And again, to go back to Ravi's work, not everything. I'm not trying to burden you with expectation, but boy, look for the people we get at. Who are we serving? What are we going to do that's going to be better? Whether that's a less terrible ad in their newsfeed or something fundamentally that changes the market. I think that's crazy exciting.
I agree. Well, thank you, Mark.
Is that it? We'll see you in 4 months for the 4th?
Well, I've got some announcements.
You do?
So I'm going to go through those really quickly.
Do you want me to stay?
No, you can stay here. If you have any comments, you're welcome to.
I will. I'll pick you with questions for the team.
Please. First off, a huge thank you to all of the speakers today. Obviously,
amazing.
This couldn't happen without everybody, and I really enjoy these, just sitting back and after I get my talk done, getting to sit back and relax and listen to everybody. Also, we're very excited to announce that we are going to go back to New York. Maybe you'll come close that one with me too. Sure. We'll be there the end of September. Obviously, you're all welcome to join us. We do actually have a ticket code for you. We can email it to you too if you don't want to get your tickets right now. But I think this is our first time here. We really appreciate you all coming. What we found in New York is that we have a lot of people who are continuing to come back, and it's created a really nice community. And obviously, you're all invited there, but we'll be back here next year, we hope. And then finally, and most importantly, we have drinks around the corner. It is just a regular cash bar. You pay for your own drinks, just to sort of be clear that we're not buying them for you, but
we can't afford power.
We can't even afford power, yeah, that's true. We couldn't keep it on all day. We got 98% of the day. But we are gonna have drinks. It's right around the corner. It's at the Well. We would love for you to join us. We're gonna just hang out and talk and probably have some beers. You're all invited. Let's keep the conversation going. Of course, also, reach out, be in touch. We'd love to hear. We'll send around a survey. We'd love to hear what you think of the event. And, just thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all, the sponsors, for helping to support this. We couldn't put it on without them. And hopefully we'll see some of you in New York and many of you next year in LA.
Good stuff. Thank you, Noah.